I'll be creating each mask roughly in order of when you get them in the game, starting with, of course, the DEKU mask. You wouldn't think so at first, but shaping something like a dome out of something that isn't dome-shaped is really difficult if you don't know what you're doing.
Yes, form around the basketball, take shape, my son.
I learned this the hard way by basically wasting an entire night trying to do it with math and geometry, both of which I don't know anything about.
Must have measured something wrong.
I found an incredibly helpful channel called Evil Ted Smith, who had a surprisingly easy step-by-step guide for creating domes and spheres out of foam. Using his guide, I was able to cut and glue the foam into a shape I was happy to work with. To make the nut-spitting hole, I took a smaller, long piece of foam and then curled it and superglued it into a cylinder. So when making the 3 leaves that sit on top of the mask, I initially hoped to just use simple plastic leaves that I bought from the dollar store, but they ended up being too small. It was at this point that I realized that I superglued the mouth on off-center.
Wow, I actually did that, didn't I?
After a bit of trial and error, I decided that I would just bite the bullet and paint the leaves myself. So I carved out 3 leaves and glued them to the face. With the shape of the mask done, it was time to paint. Started with black since it would be the strongest color to work with. I then used a smaller brush to fill in the gaps and to start patting the bottom half with paint. I then mixed and did the same thing with different shades of brown and orange. With that, it was time for the eyes. I first found their placement by cutting a rough eye shape, painting one side, and using it as kind of like a stamp to figure out my placement. I was able to simply flip the stamp and use the other side to get a symmetrical result. I was actually getting pretty discouraged looking at the results of the leaf until the spirit of Bob Ross possessed me and made me try tapping very slightly with the tip of the chisel brush. It made the exact pattern I was looking for. For each eye, I started with the middle color of the gradient, with cadmium orange. After the shape was painted and dried, I used a strong yellow to make the pupil things, and then used a dark red to make the outer sides. Once they dried, I used a wet brush, and when that didn't work, a wet tissue to slightly wipe the colors together to blend them. And with the eyes finished, I was done painting. After a few touch-ups, it was finished.